gives you a whole bunch of predefined things that you can use which are much neater and easier. But you will always find yourself using things from AWT. So when you start doing event handling, which is absolutely essential, because otherwise you'll have a nice GUI, but when you interact with it, nothing happens. You have to handle the events. All of that stuff still uses AWT classes. You can usually tell the difference between an AWT and a Java class and a Swing class, because the stuff with Swing has a J in front of it all the time. So in AWT you have a class called frame. In Swing you have a class called JFrame. And then there's panel, and then there's JPanel. And it's really the same class souped up. And usually I believe they even inherit from it. Anyway, now when you think about GUIs, you have to think in a slightly different way from consoles. Because when you write a normal console-based program, it's just this thing. Here's a list of things you do. Essentially, if you wanted to, you could unroll the whole program and just give it one long list of things. Of course, you're organizing in terms of functions and and objects and all of that. But essentially, this is what it's doing. Even though it's doing all the decision control and stuff like that. But basically, it's just do what I say. That's how you think about these. For GUIs, it's not quite that way. Here you lay out your interface, and so now they have something to mess with. And then you write event handlers, which is basically saying, if the user does this, you do that. From that point on, it doesn't do what you say. It's completely driven by external things. So the user comes and clicks on the button. That invokes the event handler. You're not expecting the user to do anything. It just sits and waits. Most of the GUI's lifetime is just sitting there and waiting for something to happen. And then when something happens that you're interested in, which is something you're an event handler for, it handles the event, it does whatever it's supposed to, and so something changes. So the user clicks a button, that's an event. The user types something in, that's an event. Something, you got a message over a network, maybe there's a chat program, that's an event. Anything, you can turn anything into an event, but usually we just care about stuff that the user did. So button clicks or selections, typing something, that sort of stuff. Okay. So there are three things that you need to know how to do. First bit is you need to learn how to use the different components. All the stuff that you see in your window, each of those things are components. So the big window, that's a component. Inside of it, you maybe have a button and a text field. Each of those is individually a component. And so there are tons and tons of these. Then you do the event handling bit, which is when you tell these components to do things in response to something the user did. And then you have layout managers, which are responsible for placing things. You just add components to a component, whichever component contains them. But then they don't know where to go. So your layout manager is a class that's responsible for deciding where everything is placed. Okay. It is completely impossible for anybody, unless they're teaching for 100 years, to explain everything that goes on in class. So get used to spending a lot of time here. Especially for whenever the next assignment comes out, that's going to be, there's going to be some GUI stuff there. Or if you want to do GUI things for the extra credit, this is where you go. Because it's completely impossible for me to teach you everything. In fact, on top of that, I don't know everything.